Hi everyone, it's Board Games and Bourbon. I'm Glenn Flaherty again, and thank you for being here once again. Love seeing my friends. Today we're going to talk about 3 games I played this week. One is On the Rocks. I guess I've been playing this for about 2 weeks, and this is a Mancala style game, 1 and over. This here is Tua Dice. Again, 1 and over, plays best as multiplayer. This too. This one is kind of like a city destruction game in a way, and it's almost a piece of artwork in its production value. And then the third thing I was playing was the Cupid Crisis, which is an 18-card escape room enigma game where you really have to see through the obvious, peer through the riddle to solve it. And this is probably the hardest of the 4 that I have. So let's talk about each game individually, its merits, and all that good stuff. Well, probably the one I was playing the most was On the Rocks. This one is by Pentree Games, Michael and Christina Petrie, and 25th Century is getting out into your stores. And essentially what you're doing in this game is you're trying to make drinks, both solo and multiplayer. It's a puzzle sort of the game. And you're going to have old fashions, hurricanes, martinis, and highballs. And each of these drinks are going to require marbles of different colors and different quantities. So if the card says 4 points on it, it requires 4 marbles. And what's going to happen is at the beginning of your turn, you are going to roll some die that look like frosted ice, which is really cool. And in this case, it says a 5 and a 3. Now, what that normally means is I would go in this bag, I grab 8 random marbles, and I would distribute them among the bowls. You have different bowl counts depending on how many people there are. Interesting, the bowls are called jigger bowls, so I actually measured it. And they're a little bit more than a jigger, but it can hold a jigger if you want to drink. So just so you know, the difference is a pony is 1 ounce pour, and a jigger is 1.5 ounce pour. But, you know, if you aren't happy with 8, because there's a 3 and a 5, you can get rid of a marble. You already have an ingredient and flip the die over to the other side. Now, just so you know, 2 sides of a die always equal 7. So if it's 3 on one side, it'll be 4 on the other. If it's 2 on one side, it's 5 on the other. And then you distribute them. And you try to fill up as many spots as you can on the board here. You have an old-fashioned. This can hold up to 6 elements. The hurricane holds 8. The martini holds 6. The highball can, again, hold 8 marbles. Along the way, you might pick up black marbles or gold marbles. And the black ones are ones that are going to give you troubles. They're going to make you take spill cards. And spill cards do things like, it says remove any 2 ingredients from a martini glass. So that can mess you up a little bit. Remove all green ingredients from 1 drink. Okay, you can kind of get your way out of that. Red, remove all red ingredients from 1 drink. Remove all blue ingredients from 1 drink. Sometimes they say remove the top row and stuff like that. And those cards can mess you up a little bit. So you're kind of debating in the solo game, do I want to take the bowl that has the black one because maybe it helps me complete something else? And what you're trying to do is you're trying to complete all your drinks and then move on to another round. So there's 3 rounds and you have 4 drinks you have to complete. So maybe, you know, taking the black would help in that case. In the solo game, you take the black marble and you put it on one of your drinks. And it might jam up. I'm going to take that black marble. I'm going to put it here. Let's see, is there a black marble in here? Yeah. And I'm going to put it there. And that kind of jams up a location on the board. And if I jam it up too bad, maybe I can't complete it, and that stops my progress. So you have to kind of puzzle your way through it, saying, okay, I haven't completed this 1 drink. It also only requires 4 ingredients, not 6. So I can put my black marble there, and maybe I can get myself out of a jam in the future. And then how do you get yourself out of those jams? Well, there are golden balls. And in the solo game, the golden ball can either give you 2 ingredients, or it can remove one of the black marbles. And so you can just remove it and get out of your way. And in the multiplayer, it also gets you 2. When you complete a drink, you get a tip, and tips are extra points. Like this one here says 2 points, and it says feels tipsy. Draft 2 ingredients at random and add to the player board. So you can either keep it for points or you can use its power, but they're not all just for you. You can give them to other people. Like the clumsy bartender, it says $1. Spill another bartender's drink, pull from the spill deck. So you would pass that to somebody. Share, it says here, it's a 2-point card for 2 points, or I can use it. It says buy a drink. I get 3 ingredients, someone else gets 1. $2, take 1 ingredient from another bartender. And then $2, it says here, shots. On your turn, collect 2 ingredients only from your bowl. Return remainders to the bag. So there's a lot of like mitigation on what you get. The game is very light. It's not the lightest game I've ever played, but I'd say it's like, I'd say 2 out of 5. It's very whimsical, very lighthearted. This would be a really fun game to play with kids. I would play this with kids. Get them started early. Teach them about the drinks. And then you can put this with some of the other games. Like there's a game called Distilled. That's more like a Euro, and that's about the process of making your spirits. This game is about making the drinks and giving it out to people. And then there's a game called like Swing Voodoo Lounge, and that's about socializing at parties and stuff like that. 3 games that might make a fun weekend. I really enjoyed it. The production is super high end. That's a common theme among all these games. The cards feel great. The marbles, they feel like they're plastic marbles, but they're very vivid in color. They even have little air bubbles in it to make it look like it was blown glass. The board are double thick. The color is saturated. The choice of fonts and imagery, man, spot on. Even the player boards fold like it's a little cocktail menu. I love it. So this is one I recommend if you're looking for a light game. And I would say this would be in the introductory category. And when I say introductory category, I don't mean, grizzled veterans don't want to play it. But I'm just saying even introductory people can play it on King of Tokyo level. That's where I would put it. Another game that I've been playing is Tua Dice. Not as much. I played this one a lot. It's an end of the game, relaxing puzzler that you're trying to work through. Whereas Tua Dice is more a tactical game about making the best out of your situation. Now, the production here is also amazing. It has these fantastic dice that are clear. I've never seen clear die like this. And they sit, you look through them to look at the board. And the board isn't a board, which I think is great. They're actually little circles that sit around this circular thing like a Times Square. And also, I got to tell you, those choices that I'm raving about over here in terms of clear dice, large dice, interesting board, the artwork, it looks gilded. It almost reminds me of a Klimt in a way, but I'm a dilettante of art, but that's what it reminds me of. That On the Rocks had that too, because they could have easily made a game that used cubes, but they went with marble, and it brings that effervescence and that jubilation to it. But over on Tua Dice again, what you're doing is you're rolling the die, and they're going to have different numbers, and you put them on the board. There's 2 sides of the board, day and night. And every spot on the board is going to have a price to activate that location. You put the die out in numerical order, and like if I put a 2 on this yellow, the first day it says here it costs nothing to use that spot. And essentially what you're doing is you would get a piece of paper, and the piece of paper has a red location, a yellow location, a white location. And if this, for example, says 2 yellow, that means my number 2 yellow spot on here, I can circle something and activate it. Now, in this case, there's 2 things I can do. I can choose a spot that says for every red tile that's active right now, and right here we have yellow, white, yellow, yellow, there's no red, I would get 3 flags. Flags help you plus or minus a die. Or I could have gotten 2 yellow workers, and yellow workers essentially are points. When I get 2 yellow workers that are right next to each other, you get what's in between. In this case, it gives you coins. Now, it's interesting because it works on a few levels. When you're on a red, you can build a fort. A fort will protect you against attacks. And if you notice, there's a black die. The black die is an attack. When a black is on a yellow, in the first few rounds, it simply removes it from the game, so you can't choose it. But from round 3 forward, like in this case, it says 5 black. It says destroy your number 5 yellow location. So you need a fort to protect it, and if you don't, you lost it. So what are you doing here? You are building forts. You are building things that give you different workers. You are doing actions that give you kickbacks based on how many tiles are out here. That's the yellow section. You are getting scoring conditions. That's the white section. And so basically what happens is, down here where it says scoring conditions, if I circle a building that has a worker on it, each one of these lines has a scoring condition worker on it. So it says I get 1 point based on how many things I've circled here, or how many I've circled here, or how many I've circled here, how many here, here, here. And then I add them up. But there's a multiplier depending on the order that I got it in. So if I unlock this first, it's worth 1. If I unlock this second, it's also worth 1. But if I unlock this third, now it's worth 2. And if I unlock this fourth, this is worth 3. So the order of which you get things also depends. Okay. Then the last thing about the game is that as you get the currency in the game, like the red currency, which is flags, it lets you roll your die up and down. If you get the yellow currency, which is coins, it lets you buy dice. Like this die was 0. This die might cost 1. This die might cost 3. And then down over here, these are like Bibles, and these will let you turn a die into any color you want it to be. Any that are left over accumulate into points. Like, for every 2 you have, you get 1 point. And that's essentially the game. There's an expansion that's banners, and they're kind of like secondary powers that, in a way, kind of remind me of Red Cathedral. Red Cathedral has this thing where, there's like kickbacks. You roll your dice, you put them, and then there's like a secondary power you can get. But overall, this reminded me of a game called Seastead. That was another like puzzle of a game. There was a lot to do in that game. And again, it had movable little parts like that where you kind of move around the edges. A lot of good stuff there. It is a tactical puzzle of a game. Solo, I know they made a lot of like achievements that you try to do in the game that gives it purpose. Otherwise, the solo doesn't really have purpose other than saying beating your own score. But it seems like multiplayer is where it's at. It plays in about 20 minutes, a little harder than a 2, but it's not very complex either. There's just a lot of looking at what your situation is and cleverly figuring out what is the optimal thing to do. There's a little bit of chance in there too, right? Hedging your bets. Do I want to build a fort to protect stuff, or do I want to start building scoring conditions, taking the chance that the black die might destroy it later if it's not protected? So that's that thing. The last game I did was the Cupid Crisis. And it's interesting. The Cupid Crisis is from Grand Gamers Guild, and they did send these to me. But they have 4 games so far in the series. They have the Cupid Crisis, the Pumpkin Problem, 2 out of 3 difficulty, the Kringle Caper, 3 out of 3, and the Independence Incident, 3 out of 3. And these are escape room games, different than Detective by Portal Games, much more like the, escape room box games. I forget what they're called, but they always have like a cabin and stuff on it, unlocked and stuff like that. And that there's a moving storyline through the game without giving it away. I'll give you like the first thing that happens here, which doesn't ruin the game at all. In the Cupid Crisis, you're showing up for a date in a restaurant, but no one's there and the door is locked, and you're trying to figure out what's going on and how do you get out. And there's a lot of things presented to you, a menu, X, Y, and Z. What do these mean? What am I looking for? Are the questions being asked to me work on one level or multiple levels? So you have to look a little deeper. There's a little bit of guesswork, think outside the box. If you were Columbo, this still might be challenging. Now, these also come with an app that you use not to interact and figure out what's going on, but they're helpers. You go to the app, which is really a website, and if you get an answer correct, you put it in, and it'll tell you what cards to pull. If you don't know what's going on, they give you a bunch of clues, and then ultimately, if you're stuck, it'll just give you the answer, so you can move on. So it's not too daunting if you get stuck. If you're into those kind of enigma games, these are great. They're small. They are very affordable, 18 cards. You're not going to spend the whole night or be frustrated on some crazy thing that doesn't make any sense. But like I said, there's 4 of them. So if you go to their website, maybe pick up a few, and maybe you can just do that in one night. So a lot of good stuff. And I almost forgot, day drinking today is brought to you by Obon Little Bay. Now, Oban is Gaelic, and in Gaelic that means Little Bay. So that right there is Little Bay, Little Bay. And it's a very light, kind of citrusy, non-peated, to my palate, Scotch that comes in at a pretty affordable price point considering it's a Scotch. I would say it's $80 a bottle. It's a straight. It's not blended. There's some blended ones like Chivas Regal Red, which is pretty good. But this one is a little bit more viscous, and this one almost reminds me in a way of a very nice Irish whiskey, because it's not peated. So if you have somebody who's looking to get into scotches, this might be a gentle way to tiptoe in there. Okay, everyone. Well, that's it for now. Thank you so much. I hope that was informative. If you have questions about any of the games, let me know. Happy to tell you my thoughts. And until next time, friends, be well.